Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Rainier Avenue Radio presents an opportunity for you to learn more about generational wealth. December 17th from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Columbia City Theater. What is generational wealth? People tend to think of generational wealth as old money, but the potential to leave a financial legacy exists for anyone who generates more income than they spend. If you want financial independence for yourself, your children, your grandchildren, you need to start thinking strategically. December 17th, between 4 to 6 p.m., join us at the Columbia City Theater, kicking off a campaign to raising awareness to creating generational wealth. Generational wealth is family wealth passed down from one generation to the next, repeatedly. Want to learn more? Join us at the Columbia City Theater, December 17th, 4 to 6 p.m. to learn more about planting the seeds of generational wealth, what it means, and building your family dynasty. December 17th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Columbia City Theater. Sponsored in part by the City of Seattle Department of Neighborhoods and Rainier Avenue Radio World. Build your generational wealth.
Greetings. This is your host, DJ Neftali, Rainier Avenue Radio World, the best DJ in the Seattle area. You can catch me every Monday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Like I said, this is DJ Neftali, the best reggae in Seattle, Washington, the best radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio World. Man, right?
Wash your hands, don't touch your face, wipe things down, clean up your space. When you cough and sneeze, do responsibly. If you feel you're getting ill, isolate at home and chill. No, you're not alone. Please pick up your phone and call 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Health 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Health Community Radio Station will provide you with more information. Say Rainier Avenue Radio. Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio,
your community radio station.
You're listening to HeartBeat Radio. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. HeartBeat Radio is a conversation aimed to take the pulse of corporate America. Opportunities for people of color. We're getting lost in the shuffle of change. I'm that provocateur of change. The hearts of corporate America are addressed. Access and opportunities will be accelerated for all people. Through HeartBeat Radio, you will gain a deeper understanding of what is necessary for change. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to HeartBeat Radio and Podcast. I am your host, Cindi Bright. On a somewhat emotional evening, I didn't expect to have the emotion running through me, as this is my final show on Rainier Avenue Radio. You can probably hear that in my voice. HeartBeat's not going away. We'll talk more about that in the second half of the show. I'm just making a move, and I'll explain more about that in the second half of the show. I have been 5 years on air. I believe this is around 175th episode that I'm doing. So 174 conversations about racial equity, about progress for Brown and Black people. And I plan to continue that journey, and I'll explain more to you. But this clearly is an emotional night for me tonight because this has been family. It's interesting, the connections that I have made, the people that are a part of Rainier Avenue Radio. Again, I'll speak more about that in the second part of the show. There's so much happening right now out in the news today, and I was trying to take note of all the different things that warrant a conversation. Let me invite Joy Stanford in with me this evening to complete this show tonight. Hi, Joy.
Hey,
How are you?
I hear the emotion in your voice.
Yeah, I didn't expect it. And I was just sitting here thinking about the journey. I'll talk more about the journey to this point and what has led to the decision to change, and just kind of the dreams and goals I have for HeartBeat, and kind of what I'm pursuing. You know a lot. You are close to me and hear a lot of the conversations outside of the show about the issues we are working to progress. In today's news, I mean, there's so much to be happy about. I mean, I was so happy about Brittany Griner, that she's back home. There's a lot of these kind of things that we talk about every week. And I have this whole list of all these different things that are going on, and I feel like my emotion has overtaken me a little bit this evening. I'm not sure I can kind of dive into a lot of those issues and talk some of those things through, but clearly there's a lot we need to continue to talk about.
I think one of the things you should talk about is, and I'll ask the question, excuse me, is why you started this in the first place. Like, what led you to even do this? And I remember there was just a lot going on, and you did this as well. So that was, when I was thinking about it over the last couple of days, that's what came to mind for me, was what led you to do this?
It was never on my radar to be a radio host. I never considered media. I never considered
or running for office.
What I have tended to do is, I'll just say, follow divine order. And this just happened. And so it so happened that I happened to be in a business setting when I met Tony Benton, who is the station manager of here. I didn't know him. I mean, I knew his voice through Cube 93. I didn't know that's who I was talking to when I had met him at a business setting. And it was just through a conversation with him when he was trying to figure out who I was, and I was trying to figure out who he was. And he shared with me about Rainier Avenue Radio, and just threw it out as, had I ever considered using my voice to, impact change, to talk to community, and I hadn't. And so I just decided, I'm going to just try this and see what this is about. My producer, who I will speak to on the second half of the show on air, might have, Daniel, I don't know if you have any footage or anything. I mean, Rainier Avenue, I've been in 3 different studios with Rainier Avenue Radio. So when it first started off, my show was on Monday nights at 6:00, and it was a 30-minute show. The very first show, I just brought my son on to talk about me and, at the time, dealing with law. It was after my lawsuit, but all this, stuff that was going on in my life. And I was just really adamant that corporate America needs to change, and how tragic it is that, brown and black people, black women who does have some footage from some of those days.
Oh, he does. I love it.
Yeah, that was the first, was that the first studio? I think so, that I was in. That is Pastor Gary Tyson and his wife. So we talked a lot about Black community. So
like,
yeah,
like we
it used to always be in person. And so I loved it. I started getting a rhythm to doing the show, and it started to get traction. And then it so happened that I had fell into running for office, and the night before the election, before the election, not my election, I didn't win, most people know, but the night before that, so elections are on Tuesday, the show is on Monday night, I came in loaded for bear to go on air, because I was spinning after having had my feet and hands into local politics. And I unleashed a little bit on that show. And that's when I started to feel like I was finding my voice and the kind of the things that I needed to start tackling and talking about. Yeah. And so my intro, when you hear about corporate America, access and opportunity, this is still my work. I still focus on that. But it is it's been an interesting evolvement because I think it was my 150th show. Tony Benton came on and talked to me, and I remember his comments were, he said, something clearly has changed in you, Cindi, since when you first came on air. And maybe it's because we've been talking about the same kind of things for a long time, and we're still seeing how very slow progress is. In fact, I'll talk a little bit about that because I was at this event this evening that I'll share about. This was about progress, trying to get progress for people. And so I just have continued to stay true to this, and it started to hone in even more during COVID, because during COVID, no one could go out and doorbell. I remember, and that's when I did that special on Black women. And we didn't do that special on Rainier Avenue. We did it separate from that for the Opportunity Political Action Committee. Do you remember that? Because you were a candidate at that time, and so I was interviewing you.
Right.
Yeah. So,
oh God, I feel like that was like so long ago. That was 2020.
In 2020. And that's when we started seeing, that's when we got our first Black senator, Tawana Noble. She was on that show with me. Our Black caucus chair, Jamila Taylor, was starting to run for office. April Berg was on that show with us. Tanisha Harris. Maybe was April there? I don't remember. Maybe April wasn't there, but Tanisha was there.
Tanisha was there.
So we had several, and it just worked out that, there are all these Black women that were trying to get elected into office. Yep. And I so happened to have a voice then. And at that point, I had been on air 3 years. And so it just kept getting traction and kept getting traction. And now it's known, right? People know HeartBeat. People reach out. People reach out.
They want to be on. They're like clamoring to be on.
They want to be on. They want to talk about their campaigns. They want to talk about issues. And so it's good. It's a good thing we have given a voice to Black women, Black people. And we've continued to highlight not just the campaigns, but elected officials who are in office and are doing work, or we are asking questions around accountability for things. And so it's continuing to evolve, and now we're expanding more with it next year. So it's a good thing, right?
And fast forward to 2022, and now your evolution of, what can we look forward to, I guess, as you evolve this show? What is it going to be? The same topics? Is it going to be a little different topics, or are you still going to hone in still on the corporate business?
I'll get to that. Let me tell you about an event I went to today, because, a lot of the topics, that I want to focus on going forward, I've been making lists of some of these different issues and topics and things that we need to contend with. I went to this event today, and it was a small business accelerator. Lots of media was there. I went and represented Rainier Avenue Radio, and I was emotional when I was there, shaking hands and saying I'm with Rainier Avenue Radio, because today's my last day. And so I was just trying to get to know who some of the businesses were there. And I saw several of the elected officials that were there during a Q&A part. And I decided, this will shock you, I decided to ask a question. I decided to ask, and I just my question to them was, I told them who I was. And by the way, all of the major media outlets were there. So it wouldn't surprise, I didn't expect to have these big cameras in my face. Have no idea if they're going to air it. But I did say, look, on my own show, I said who I am, who I represented, what our show is about, and how I've had people on my show, including some of the big business folks, come in, and I quoted the statistic around GDP spend on Black business. And so let me say that it felt, watching many of them, it is a good thing. The accelerator program is a phenomenal thing that they're doing. They're trying to help smaller businesses grow and scale and all
Right.
that sort of stuff. When the elected officials get up, they talk about it from the perspective of how much good they're doing. Yes. But we still have a long ass way to go. And so I brought up the whole GDP spend, $1.2 billion on Black business, and in a state with a 6% Black population, that number should be closer to 24 billion. And so, we're still on Wednesday evenings, Bonnie. I'll give you some more updates here. We're not leaving Wednesday evening. We're just changing platforms. So I'll get that all clear. So what I said is that, look, to have a $22 billion deficit, we're never going to get there through these kind of programs where you're just helping to get to this level. It's like massive that needs to be done. And so I started listening to the elected officials start to respond to that question. And it was just interesting to me. One of them was very candid and spoke to the corporate America issue and the fact that, corporates, these are not his words, these are my words. Corporates afraid or saying that if they do the things that need to be done, it's going to impact shareholder money, and it will. And so they're afraid to do it because to invest money this way means that their profitability levels go down.
Right.
Now, what that really means is that the top echelon of corporate America are not going to get the same bonuses that they've always gotten because the profitability levels are lower. And so the way that they calculate it is going to impact them. And so they're unwilling to give up a dollar to try to help other people. I mean, that's how I heard it, right? And that is how I've always seen it work in these corporations. My whole proposal about solutions, the things I talk about in my book, whole nother conversation. We can't even talk about it on air today.
That's a whole episode.
But to listen to the same, and one of the elected officials happened to be who sat up there talking about what she's city council, Seattle City Council. This happens to be the same Seattle City Council person that called Rainier Avenue Radio and complained because I brought her opponent on my show twice. And so she's standing up in one breath saying, I support equity and we're doing all that we can to help it. But as soon as we give airtime to her opponent to help, because everybody who understands equity knows that you have to do more into communities that are underrepresented. She went to go to try to block that. So I made damn sure when I said I'm Cindi Bright, I looked at her square in the eye when I said it because I wanted her to know I got your gig. And it's them that we are tired of watching get into positions of power and then don't do anything because they don't want anybody else to have more than what they have. I've seen her behavior at its finest. So here we are. I mean, this is my 7-minute way of answering your question about, am I going to continue to focus on it? You're damn right I am. Because we are just beginning to see, nationally, we are just beginning to see remnants of movement in the right direction. Okay, we get the president saying we got same-sex marriage approved. We have student loan stuff in the system, at least, being moved forward. So there are remnants of progress being attempted. And we got an extra Senate seat, although the chick walked away and dropped us down one. But yes, we cannot afford to lose steam on this work. And the intention with HeartBeat going forward is to accelerate it. It's to accelerate what we're doing, and it's to expand it beyond Washington State. So, right, I've gotten continued feedback, particularly over the last couple of years. More people reach out to me about the show. More people are asking me to bring the show into other states, they are saying things like, we don't even know who our elected people are here. We don't know. We've learned more in Washington state politics by watching you and Joy than they know who their representatives are.
Because there's nobody doing this type of platform.
Nobody's doing
in
this
California. I'd like to know if in Georgia, if they doing this type, where you can bring on those folks that are running for office and have a conversation with them, give them that platform to say what are their priorities for the people and what people. And for me as a candidate, it was unearned media, and it was good unearned media, because then people are like, oh, I can go back and watch that. And then my digital, organizer kept posting little snippets from it, from all of us being on there. She was posting that all over social media. And so, this is just a platform that just doesn't exist in other states.
And we're just going to expand this because this is technology. And so let me speak to, since I have my regulars on that I'm seeing, let me just state, HeartBeat is going to stay on Wednesday nights. It's just we're changing time slots. So we're going to move it up a little bit. It's going to be at 5:30 versus 7 p.m. So it'll be right when you get off work, versus coming home and having a drink and then tuning into our stuff. It'll just be earlier. And so we are going to stay.
We'll actually be able to have dinner earlier.
Actually be able to eat. I'm actually going to be in the studio. So I'm going to be doing it at Converge Media. So that is TV. And I'm just trying a different platform and just doing something different. And we've added some regular commentary. So kind of the way I'm going to structure the show will be kind of like what Rachel Maddow does, right? Where she's on for a few minutes talking about, like, I'm going to speak more to a lot of the issues from my perspective about some of the issues. And then we'll have regular commentary. These four, including you, Joy, 4 wonderful women. Let me explain who and why I chose these people. So we're keeping Joy. I mean, we cannot not have Joy here, both with your advocacy for Black women, both with your Joy is Marcus.
Marcus, got it for us, East Coast. I know, Marcus. I know. My son said the same thing.
And because we are getting requests, so I'm surprised. It's nice to see you. I haven't seen or heard from Marcus. I think he's in South Carolina. So we're pulling in listeners from across the country now. And so this is important for us to get this show broader and deeper into these states, because we are fighting for Black power. I'll talk more about that. The guests, can we bring back up the flyer with who all I'm including in these conversations and why I've chosen them? So Joy is also a political director for a environmental company. She's also a graduate of Emerge, and Emerge is a program that helps train women to get into public office, and emerges across the country. So we want Joy's helping us with that aspect of it. Erin Jones, she's co-hosted with me before. Erin's
she's everything.
She's everything, and she has a very strong. She ran for the office of public superintendent, OPSI, public superintendent, OSPI. Phenomenal educator, does a lot in the schools. And so Black people's access, our Black children's access to education, I believe Erin will add a lot of commentary to that conversation as we continue to focus on Black America. Karen Fleshman, you look at her and you're like, oh, she put this white woman on this show. She did. Karen Fleshman is an unbelievable advocate, activist. She just ran for the San Francisco School Board. She's in the state of California. We are looking to expand into California because we want to tap into our sister Democratic states and find out what's happening and who the candidates are, and start giving platforms and a voice and access to those folks. Karen's company is called Racy Conversations. She is very skilled at I will say, I don't know if she considers herself a trainer. She is a consultant, and her focus is on white women in the workplace, white women's behavior. And she brings a lot of credibility to that conversation and has done a lot of work in that space. So she'll become a regular commentator on the show. And then last but not least, Stephanie Conversion. Stephanie is an unbelievably remarkable woman. She is has her own company. It is Jamais Pay Consulting. She is a former chief people officer, so she has a very practitioner experience when it comes to Black people in the workplace and what's going on with particularly Black women. And so we just enhance our conversations by what's happening in the news that week and adding them to the equation to this conversation. And we will be pushing the show, continue to push it into the other states to get candidates to get their voices heard and to help lift up brown and Black communities. So
like we did last week.
Pardon me?
Like we did last week with Georgia. With
correct. So we've got I'm getting reached out from New York. I've gotten several contacts from New York, from Connecticut, from Idaho, from California, from South Carolina. Like, people are paying attention to this show. So I have to position it, or I'm choosing to position it on a platform that can help me scale this further. Right. That is the only reason why I'm choosing to move it, is simply for my ability to scale it and get it to where it needs to get to. And so that's why I made that decision to do that. And it's been difficult and exhilarating at the same time to know that we're doing something bigger, broader, and hopefully better than what we've been doing. So
I love the fact that we're going to be able to have some other Emerge sisters from other state affiliates on, some other just Democratic women, Black women who are running for office that probably don't get a whole lot of, sometimes the school board, the PUD, the auditor, those races aren't as sexy as state legislature or congressional seats, but that does not make those seats less important. And to give a platform and hear how they are changing their communities, their states, the seats that they're running for, how they're changing that. I think that is something that everybody should hear and see. So
we heard it, and it was enlightening to hear Lynn last week when she talked about the fact that both her Senate and House are still red. And so even though when you look at the national media, it's not that they're not talking about that. It's just that they're not talking about that, but we are, because that's where we're trying to help deal with where the power
this is where the work happens. This is where the work happens, where Lynn sits, where she can walk up to somebody and say, I am your vehicle administrator, director, and if you have any problems, you need to call me and let me know what the problem is.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm ready to be your assembly person. So I think that's what she is, right? Or delegate, or whatever. It's always so different in other states. So.
In other states, yeah.
So it was so exciting to hear all the statistics she knew, all the things she knew, all the things she was doing, all the things she wants to do in her community. And she knew her community. That's what I love.
And the week before her, we had on the senator out of Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
Right.
And I wasn't there for that one. That's right.
Okay. So, we were able to get right to the source of who it can help impact change for those particular issues. And so the more, Black people we get elected into positions of power, we across this country can work together to help create the change that we need to have. So I see this as a movement, like we're just moving the show a little bit so that we can have a further reach. But that's the goal, is to free Black people, right? To free us from, get us wealth and, help our kids get educated. So we shouldn't have to be here fighting tooth and nail the way we have to fight to get access to things. And so that's what I was going to share in the second half of the show.
Okay, that's all right. I think about your book, and I read your book right before I went into this interview for the role that I have now. And I went into my negotiations after having read your book and after having called you several times to go, okay, what about this? Okay, what about this? Okay. And I definitely credit you and your book on giving me the strength and the confidence to go into that moment of negotiation with confidence and with strength. So thank you. Because what you've done with this platform and what you've done for candidates here, particularly Black women candidates here in Washington, is nothing but phenomenal. And had we never met at that weird event, I mean, not weird, it was a great event, but it was just like, it was so random how we met. We just kind of bumped into each other. It was like, hi, are you running for office? Yes, I'm running for office too. Where do you live? Where do you live? So it's just nothing short of phenomenal. So I think Washington is a leader. I think you're one of those leaders here in Washington State when it comes to women who are running for office and who need a platform. And that's what you're doing. You're giving them something we would never be given ever in a million years. And we know that because we ran for office and we know that. So thank you. And thank you for all that you've done for Black folks. And the topics that you've had us discuss, the hard subjects we've had to discuss, sometimes hard guests we've had to have on where we kind of had to push a little bit. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the fact that you brought me in to be a part of this. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that. I'm gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Half that up in Saks, our favorite Black business. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yo.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.RainierAvenueRadio.world.
PrEP is a daily pill that can significantly reduce your chances of getting HIV. And typically, it takes a trip to a physician to get it. Now, you can visit select pharmacies, get tested on the spot, and walk away with your first month of PrEP. Plus, you'll also walk away with a $50 gift card after you complete your pharmacy visit. It's easier than ever to protect yourself from HIV. To find your nearest participating pharmacy, go to doh.wa.gov/PrEP now. From the Washington State Department of Health and Public Health, Seattle, and King County.
The beat of the Fox with nastiness is back on K-Fox Night Beat.
Yo, what's the deal? It's the legendary Hall of Fame DJ Mixmaster Ice from UTFO. What's up? Who you thought this is? This is Sir Mix-a-Lot.
And this is Terry Lewis.
And I'm Grand Mixer GMS.
What's up, y'all? This is DJ Third Degree.
This is JJ Hudson from the High Children family.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
That's my noise. Peace.
What's going on, world? It's your boy OG Mambo.
And your guy D Money. Join us along with Pint Size Patron and ID Yourself.
Here on Fresh Juice at Rainier Avenue Radio.
Every Wednesday hump day from 9 to 11 Pacific.
Get exclusive interviews from your favorite artists, all the hottest music, and updates on what we got going on in the world.
That's every Wednesday, 9 to 11 p.m. on Seattle's Rainier Avenue Radio.
Are you a small business owner in Seattle who was impacted by COVID-19? The Seattle Office of Economic Development is investing $8 million to connect small businesses to operating capital. The Small Business Capital Access Program will lower the cost of Washington State Small Business Flex Fund loans by paying down 25% of the loan principal. Eligible small businesses can borrow up to $150,000 with a 4% interest rate to cover expenses like payroll, rent, utilities, and supplies.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at RainierAvenueRadio.world.
That up in Saks, our favorite Black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yo.
Welcome back to HeartBeat Radio and Podcast. I am your host, Cindi Bright, on my final episode on Rainier Avenue Radio. And while HeartBeat is just changing platforms, we're not going away. It is a moment of reflection this evening around what it has meant to be on this platform. Let's bring Joy in. I'm having such a difficult time doing the show tonight.
I didn't mean to make you get choked up, but I wanted to say that while I had a chance, that I really believe in what you're doing and what you've done. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So
I love it. I've had a couple of other co-hosts on with me over the few years. I've had in the early days, I had someone named Carl Edwards on with me.
Cue the tissues. Good job, Daniel. Cue the tissues.
I've had Joe Todd was on with me. He's run for public office. He was on with me for a little while. It's hard. Thank you, Butterick. I don't know who Butterick is, but thank you for being on. I see your name regularly on here watching the show. It's been producing and doing the show is not easy work. And anybody who's in the media space who spends, I put a lot of time into the show, particularly the last couple of years, because it's not, initially I was doing more off the cuff, but it has become my heart. It has become, when I'm asked what it is I enjoy doing the most, the consulting side of my business is the worst. And yet that's what pays me. And the radio show is what I love. And I don't make money from it, but I do it because it's of service. And I feel like our community needs to have access to the sort of information that we know and have access to. And the more that we learn, the more that we tap into our politicians and have conversations, our community needs to hear that. And
That's right.
Our community needs to have access to the candidates and to the elected officials. It's our money that pays them. It is our votes that put them in office. And so we require and demand access to that. So
I think it's given people a chance to see how human candidates as well as elected officials are, how just someone doing grassroots in their community can move into an elected office. And I think that that's good. And I think you're also giving access. You talk about access and opportunity, but you're also giving people access to those elected officials and just introducing them to them. Say, get to Olympia, call your elected official. Who's your elected official in your community? Find out, talk to them, go meet with them, have coffee, go to their town halls. You're doing that. And there's nobody else doing that.
And I'm asking, maybe I would say unpopular questions with the legislature.
Absolutely.
Right. So I'm representing, or I use the hashtag voice of the Black woman. Like I'm asking real questions that we need to have answers to. And I've honed that in more because initially I wasn't as, Tony B would say some things about, I was a lot more, I don't know, is it diplomatic or a little bit less candid? I don't know the right word for it. I've always been
I think 2020, you ain't got to do all that anymore.
And so I honed that in, and I have begun to really hold elected people accountable for more than minuscule progress for us. Because if we don't have this kind of a voice, if we don't ask questions, I can ask them. The general public doesn't have access to them to do that.
That's right.
Except for a show like this. And so
that's right.
We've got to do this. We've got to make sure they know we're paying your bills. We pay for you. You work for us, not the other way around. And so we've got to shift the accountability piece to elected officials. And if they can't serve us, we got to get them out and get people in that will actually do the work. And it's dirty work. Like anybody that will, I haven't served as a public official, but I've certainly been in the spaces with them. It's not a pleasant place to be. And particularly when a lot of it's performative, I was explaining earlier on the show, a very elected official who has tried to create harm to a Black woman is standing in front of that very woman and trying to say something completely different. All right, let's read what this says. I had the pleasure of hearing her story, and she's the real deal. I'm following you to the next platform. Stay with me, Marcus, because these are also for Black men, yes, and these beautiful Black women have given birth to. Amen to that. Let me say, people keep saying, like, don't you support Black men too? Of course I do.
Of course we do. We have sons. Hello.
Yeah. My focus has just tended to be on Black women because I am one. And so, yes, you're right, Marcus. Thank you for continuing to follow the show. It'll only be 8:30 your time when the show comes on, so that'll be good. Please help us spread this far and wide as you're listening to the work that we're doing and what our goals are to get across this country and make sure we're tapping into, we can see what's happening in Washington, D.C. on CNN. But what we can't see happening is all of those positions and elected and school boards and, the municipal judges, all those kind of races where our lives are being managed.
Attorney, municipal superior court judges, municipal judges. Yeah. And you've had them all on.
Yes. And let me just say, if there's a such thing, Marcus will laugh at this because he has seen me in action. If there's such a thing as ratcheting up these next level of conversations, we're going to ratchet it up because we have, we got to ratchet it up. We got to go. We cannot afford to slip. Right now is a moment that, as I said and how I promoted it, corporate America is on its knees right now. The workers are demanding change. Unionization is coming back up again. Right? Yes. People are, I could do a whole show just on Starbucks alone, right? Just the simple fact.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, so they're ratcheting it up. They are continuing to try to punt to keep their profitability levels up instead of paying people regular fair wages. They're pushing that to the consumer now, adding tip lines on coffee. I mean, there's just so much stuff that's ridiculous that for them to protect their money instead of doing what's right. But to the comment that just came up about we're on the cusp, I do believe corporate America is on its knees because the workforce is not coming back the way that they thought. So let's just start there. People are no longer willing to work for crap wages. If it takes you 15 years to get $15 an hour and you live in any major metropolitan city, you can't live in a city on $15 an hour.
That's right.
You can't live here on $30 an hour.
That's right.
So we keep staying in the same spiral because we don't want to take away the people who are profiting off of our backs. The other thing I feel very strongly about is the fact that I appreciate that, government contracts, doing business with the city of Seattle, doing business with the state of Washington, that they're pushing things out more so than what I've seen in the past. But let me emphasize this. Black people are more than just laborers. We are more than just the people that pave the streets and build the bridges. We're actually professionals too. And we want access to the same wealth and money that the white guys out there make. How many times have you heard me say this? So that is not going to come from these contracts, the way that they are distributing. It'll give you a job. And I'm not discouraging anybody from taking a job. It'll give you a job, but it's not going to solve the $20 billion deficit. We got to get real. So when I talk about ratcheting it up, we're going to tap into my whole HR is going to come to bear when I start sharing exactly how wealth is being built in these companies and equipping people across this country to understand what to go after. We keep being handed scraps. I had another conversation earlier today with Stephanie, who will be coming on regular with us. And I said to her, I share different opportunities that come through, but we break it down. And I go, look at this. There is a contract that just went out for RFP, and the value of the contract is $2,500. And they want this huge investigation done. It's with an organization. It's with a government organization here in the state. It's with a state government. And they've only budgeted $2,500. So I called Stephanie. I'm like, who do you know that's going to work for $10 an hour? Because clearly $2,500 won't even cover writing the report. Like when you think about consultant fees.
Exactly.
Right? When you think about consultant fees, that won't even cover the report, let alone the investigation. So again, scraps of money that get thrown because they just want to shut us up and say,
to me, that says they really, whatever that RFP is for, you really don't want to be doing it, but you're checking a box.
You're checking a box and you're trying to say we put it out to give it to a Black business person. And so that's the next move that they're making, is to try to say, well, we're not getting qualified people, or we're not doing, because nobody's going to work for these scraps anymore while we get to watch.
I think a person of color, Black person, should do it and then put in the real amount that it's going to cost.
Well, look, it takes 20 hours. Hey, Paula, it takes 20 hours to even put a proposal together. When you look, I printed one up yesterday. Look at how thick this shit is, and for what to go through it, when I read all of what's required, it's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous what is being expected. And that's what they're throwing at us and expecting us to just jump and grovel at it. And Black women are saying, no, we're not going to do that. I'm sitting here and
here's my price sheet. Here you go.
Well, we're not. So that's why we got to keep the steam going with HeartBeat, and why we have to ratchet it up, because it's exactly
systemic racism. That's right.
Right. That is our, for our audience who's paying attention, if you don't know who Paula Sardinas is, Paula is a Black woman lobbyist in Washington State doing the work that we need to have. This is why all the Black women that we have positioned around our state and across the country.
But everybody looks at the second page synopsis. Yes.
We got to get
a page that they want to look at. Exactly.
Yep. This cannot be our future. This cannot be how, I can talk about this. I can preach. Everybody knows I can preach about this. When you can bring white men in to make millions of dollars who aren't, look, the last CEO I worked for, white male, I really liked him a lot. He was a good dude. His prior, ratchet it up, his prior experience before he became the CEO of the most profitable financial services business. And his background was, he came from Xerox. He was a sales guy turned CEO.
No.
Look, he was a great, I thought he did really well. But my point is that he didn't have to have any of the credentials to get in and make those millions of dollars. While the Black women are out here, or the Black people, you just say the Black people.
We got to come with receipts. We got to have.
We're the ones with the
receipts.
And we're the ones that are with the education. All the Black women now have all these letters behind our names, and they still want us to fill out this kind of stuff without even understanding that as consultants, you have to take 30% of the fee off the top, because that's our taxes, right? You have to understand that the number that they put out there is not what we take home.
That's right.
When you subtract out how much they put in an RFP and how much they're willing to pay, you're going to have to subcontract some of it out for the help.
Right.
That brings you down to making $30,000 a year. We can't live on that. So
that's right.
Again, thank you for thinking that this bureaucratic process of throwing all these RFPs out and saying, I've got 10 Black women consultants, let them go fight over $100,000 before 30% is gone. And then, look, this is the nightmare we've got to get out of, and we have to start forcing the hands of where wealth and money is built in these corporations. And we also have to get another conversation I had earlier today. The Black people who are working in nonprofits, who are not making a lot of money, and many of them, I'm just going to wink at Marcus for the moment. They're run by white women who make tons of money, and then the people on the in a nonprofit, and so this system is just, we can't. And
we're not talking about my organization, because my organization.
I'm not talking about your organization.
Oh, woman of color, which is why I'm there.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know your organization. I'm just happy you're there and that there's a voice
Run
of
by a Native woman. And she's the only one. I think she's the only one running an environmental nonprofit. She may be the only. She may be. I may be wrong, but the environmental space is definitely historically white. And I'm not, I never forget that. It's an historically white industry. That's what we want to call it. Environment, pardon the pun. So to be there with a board that's 50%, another board that's 60%, and then a woman of color as the CEO, it's pretty phenomenal. But you don't see that a lot.
You don't see it a
You
lot.
don't see that a lot.
Yeah, you don't see it a lot.
No.
I was having a conversation earlier about another organization that is just tragic to watch what's happening to all the Black women that work there in a nonprofit. And I'm talking like 5 or 6 all, resigning because we're just tired of being abused. And so
I came from a big nonprofit too. I came from Group Health, where there were, probably, maybe, definitely one in the C-suite, one Black person, male. Next level down, maybe 2 or 3. Definitely down where I was, worker bee, lots of us, but still we were a very small percentage of the 60,000 plus employees who worked for Group Health at the time, which is now was bought and switched over to Kaiser. So it's much different. Although Kaiser is very diverse, it's not the same healthcare system as Group Health was. That's what I'll say.
And Kaiser used to be run by a brother, Bernard something. Like he did a great job of. I just remember that from my California.
Living in California when we lived in California, right? Yeah. It was a phenomenal healthcare system, but they're going through some growing pains now, and I think it's because they grew too fast. You buy all these different organizations and you just grow too fast. So. But
look, there's so many companies, I think the point of all of this is that it doesn't, it's nonprofit, it's for profit. Yes. These organizations we have hit a point in time where it's never going back. And while corporations and businesses may think that, if they add this or they add that,
right.
That's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen because we've all raised our children. I was asked this, I did a podcast this morning. I don't know when it comes out, but it was a gay man's podcast. And he asked me the question, what have you told your own son about corporate America? And so I paused and I said, well, he's in an organization now. He's in an organization that is run by brown and Black people, first off. But I said, I have taught him to go in and get experience and then get the hell out. Because while you're in the beginning part, moving your way up, it'll be okay. But as soon as you challenge her authority or you get ready to excel beyond her, that's when shit's going to get real. And you're too smart. I never want him to set foot in any of those companies because Aaron and I think our children's generation, so he's a millennial. The generations behind that, they've grown up different, where their parents have given them air cover from the crap we've had to deal with. So we've protected them from that.
We did.
And they'll never go in and let one of these women talk to them the way these women have talked to us, right? They will never go in and let themselves get abused. And especially, from in my family, we put too much into his education to spend his career making somebody else wealthy. Like I'm a big time entrepreneur with him, and now he's back into basketball. So I hope my prayer is that he goes into NBA coaching, which is a whole nother corporation.
Right.
But I just don't want him. I don't want my grandkids to ever have to deal with the kind of crap I've had to deal with. Ever. So
well, do you want to say any goodbyes, or no, not goodbyes. See you on the next platform.
Yeah, I'll
shout
go
out or.
Yeah, there's a few things I wanted to say tonight. Let me just catch that last comment that was just made. Healthcare is a weird characteristic of the demographic that gets into med school programs. Ooh.
This is true, Butterick. This is true.
Yep. Well, look, we're almost out of time, and there's a few things I did want to say that I need to say before they say speak your truth, even if your voice shivers or shakes. So my voice may shake here. Let me just say a couple things. First off, HeartBeat is not going away. We're still going to be on Wednesday evenings. You're going to see more promotion of that coming out. I've just recorded a commercial from it. You're going to see an enhanced focus on Black people. And so I say that, many times I often say, my pro-Black does not mean anti-white. So I want to say that to my white audience, because I know there are several of you that follow. I am fighting for the least of thee. And so in the words of the scripture, when you focus on the least of thee, the rest of us rise. And so I will continue to enhance. You'll hear me talking more about Black America. You'll hear me talking more about Black people, Black issues, and asking more questions specifically honed in for Black people. So we will continue to be on Wednesday nights. We will be from 5:30 to 6:30, just a different platform. You'll be able to watch it the same way that you're watching the show right now. Not too much changes. What changes for me personally, let me first off, I want to recognize a couple people. I want to give a heartfelt thank you. I have a absolutely wonderful producer who I consider a friend. His name is Daniel Bellis. And Daniel, Daniel is the host of Fresh Juice. And but more importantly, an absolutely wonderful human being who has done so much to help me with this show. He's been the most reliable help that I have had. He's stuck with me. He knows my rigidity around making sure everything works the way, and he's always on point. And Daniel, to you, I genuinely love you, and I hope we don't lose touch, because you have made a world of difference in my life, and certainly for HeartBeat's show. So from the bottom of my heart, I want you to know how much you mean to me, and I know you know that. And to Tony Benton, who is our station manager, just a big warm hug. I got your note in the chat wishing me the best. You have been an absolutely wonderful station manager, mentor, person who helped me to understand how to navigate radio. You have just been a rock star for Rainier Avenue, and I am not leaving you guys. I'm just moving down the street a little bit from you guys for all the reasons I said before. So both of you have done a lot for the community, for HeartBeat Radio. I've got to learn to drop the radio from my, HeartBeat, because it's just going to become HeartBeat, not HeartBeat Radio. And we continue sludging and fighting for the advancement of Black people. So with that, Joy, thank you you've been on with me for 1.5 years now, at least 1.5 years.
Yeah.
It goes by quick.
It does.
We're going to be off air for just a couple of weeks. We come back on air January.
But I won't be with you, so you'll have the other ladies. I won't be there.
Yes.
I'll be flying back from the Midwest, so.
You won't be on January 4th with me?
I won't. I'll be flying back that day. That is the day I'm flying back. I didn't know it at the time when I booked this. I booked this so many months ago, so I didn't know what was.
We've got plenty of other hosts with me now, so that helps that. To my audience who has continued to follow me and watch the show every week. I mean, there's some regulars that are on here. Yes, we love you. Thank you for continuing to support HeartBeat. I hope we bring you along with us to our new time slot. Help me promote this. Let's get word out across this country, this work that we're doing here collectively. South Carolina, New York, Napa, California, San Francisco.
San Mateo, California.
You guys are following us. Thank you for your continued support. Have a Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a Happy New Year. We're going to take a couple of weeks off, and then we're going to see you back on air January 4th, 5:30 p.m. follow me on Facebook, and I joined TikTok. So join me on TikTok because I'll be talking more about stuff on TikTok. Okay, it's Cindi B 425 on TikTok. Have a good evening to everybody. God
Love
bless
you,
you all.
Cindi. Thank you. Love you, Cindi.
Love you, Joy. Daniel must be drying his
Daniel's
eyes.
crying. Cue the tissues, Daniel. Cue the tissues.
And so
There we are.
we're having a series, and I've invited a co-host to join me in this series, Carl Edwards. Carl, welcome to HeartBeat Radio.
Welcome, sir. Glad to be here.
Carl and I have been talking about this whole issue of what we call righteousness in corporate America. Carl, why don't you talk to our audience a little bit about your thoughts about what this means for you?
Yeah, sure. I think when we look at the recent election with Obama 8 years ago, and now the transition to Trump, you know, when Obama was elected, there was a lot of talk about this being a post-racial era, right? People thought we had advanced so far, and then we finally kind of made some significant ground.
How far back is this, Cindi?
This is episode 30, so
as soon as Obama took office,
long time.
Sacks, I feel the black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.